Welcome, and thank you for joining me once again on a slow journey through the forgotten corners of history. Tonight, we travel to the far reaches of empire, where paved roads begin to crumble into rough stone, and where the marble of Rome gives way to the damp earth of Britannia, wading through cold nights and long winters, waiting for enemies who may never come, and for orders that may never change. This is the Rome of silence, of discipline, of the slow rhythm of survival. This was not the Rome of triumphal arches or bustling forums, but the Rome of distant duty, of rain-soaked leather, rusted swords, and quiet endurance. We will spend our time in a Roman frontier fort, a place built not for glory, but for waiting. Then we will follow the broader sweep of strategy and ambition behind this distant frontier. Next, we will step back in time through delicate scraps of preserved parchment, personal letters from long-dead soldiers. And finally, we will cross the threshold into a Roman villa, to observe the quiet rituals of comfort on the edge of an empire. This is not the Rome of grandeur. Our journey will move through 4 stages. First, we will slip into the boots of a Roman auxiliary stationed at a lonely outpost along Hadrian's Wall. So if your bed is warm and your thoughts are beginning to slow, let us begin. Let us march gently into the mist of the Roman north. Imagine waking to the sound of clanking armor and a muffled trumpet echoing across the frost-laced hills. The air is sharp with cold, not the bright, dry cold of alpine peaks, but the heavy, damp cold of northern Britannia, a chill that settles into your bones, into your boots, into your breath. Your tunic is thin. Your cloak, woolen but soaked from yesterday's rain, is stiff at the edges. You have come not by choice, but by order. For 25 years of service, you will patrol this edge of the known world. In exchange, if you survive, you may one day earn citizenship, a slim parchment and a few short privileges. You are a soldier in a Roman frontier fort. Within its walls lie barracks, a granary, stables, a commander's house, and a few storage sheds. The walls are cold to the touch, slick with moss. You may be sent beyond the wall with a small scouting party, or you may simply stand guard motionless, watching fog roll down the distant hills. You walk slowly along the ramparts, eyes scanning the same scrubby horizon. Your sword lies close by, not gleaming, but dulled by weather and wear. Beyond the wall lies land called Barbaricum, untamed, unknown. The locals are not Romans. Some trade, some watch, some vanish into the forest. Fires burn in stone braziers, but they never seem to banish the chill entirely. You are likely an auxiliary, perhaps from Gaul, or Thrace, or Syria, not a noble, not a citizen. The fort itself is a squat cluster of stone buildings surrounded by thick wooden palisades. The day begins early, with the echoing shout of centurions, the rustle of gear, and the daily contubernium routine. Wooden bunks, coarse blankets, and a small shared hearth. You share your barrack room with 7 others. Your tasks today might include cleaning equipment, repairing walls, grinding grain, or patrolling a short section of wall. But more often than not, the danger is time itself. You eat quickly, seated on a bench slick with years of use. Conversation is quiet, peppered with complaints in a dozen accents. Men who may come from far corners of the empire to this cold, forgotten place. The slow erosion of discipline, the creeping boredom, the endless repetition of routine. Bread, lentils, salted meat if you are lucky. The water is sometimes warm, sometimes cloudy. The patrol is uneventful. Most are. Occasionally there is trouble. A raid, a skirmish, a lone scout caught in a ditch. Meals are plain, the scent of olives, the laughter of friends. You may be called to dig ditches or construct watchtowers. There are no great rewards, no medals, no parade. But there is order, and the rhythm of that order becomes your life. You sleep in fits, your dreams often broken by the creak of wood, the howl of wind, or the distant barking of dogs. You miss the sun, the warm streets of a distant city. But this is your post. And so you rise again the next day, and the next, and the next. The rhythm of life in a Roman fort was not made for comfort or glory. It was made for endurance. And so you endure. Now that we've walked a day in the sandals of a frontier soldier, let us step back, let us widen the lens, and gaze at the wall itself. Hadrian's Wall, a long, solemn line of stone stretching across the narrowest part of Britain, from the River Tyne in the east to the Solway Firth in the west. Roughly 73 miles, or 80 Roman miles, measured in footsteps, not maps. It was not built all at once, and it was not a single smooth line, but a series of forts, mile castles, watchtowers, and walls of varying thickness, height, and stonework. A living, shifting boundary, shaped by terrain and need. Its purpose? Not a fortress, not quite a border, but something subtler, a symbol, a message carved in stone. He was not a conqueror like his predecessor, Trajan. He was instead a consolidator, a traveler, a man who believed that the empire should be measured and maintained rather than stretched too thin. A line drawn by an emperor to say, here is the end of order, and the beginning of something else. The wall was named, of course, for Emperor Hadrian, who ruled from 117 to 138 CE. Roads were paved alongside the wall, allowing messages to travel swiftly from fort to fort, to define Roman control, to tax, to monitor, and to communicate the subtle authority of Rome's reach. And so, during one of his long tours of the provinces, Hadrian ordered the wall constructed, not to repel a mighty foreign army, but to manage the flow of people and goods. The Caledonians were not a united people. They were a mosaic of groups, some hostile, some neutral, some opportunistic. But they shared a fierce independence and a deep knowledge of the land. Imagine the wall rising. Campaigns would march beyond the wall, seeking to subdue uprisings or establish new outposts. These forays were often short-lived. Supply lines stretched thin. Weather turned, support faltered, stone by stone. But it did not last. Within a few decades, the Romans withdrew again to Hadrian's Wall, their original, more stable boundary. It became a workplace, a marketplace, even a home for some. Families lived in the shadows of the forts. Traders came and went. Cattle passed through guarded gates. And the soldiers, who were once strangers to the land, settled into its rhythm. The boundary between past and present blurs with every step. And so the wall shifted in response, a compromise between design and topography. The wind still whistles across the ridges. Sheep graze where sentries once stood, a line between the known and the unknown, the civilized and the wild, at least from a Roman point of view. At larger intervals, proper forts, like Vindolanda, Housesteads, and Bertelswald, housed full garrisons, storehouses, and even civilian communities. Cut from local quarries, lifted by tired arms, stacked under the gray northern sky. Soldiers labored side by side with hired craftsmen. Earth was moved. Turf was shaped. Gates were reinforced. Every Roman mile, about 1,480 meters, a small fortlet called a mile castle was built. Between them, watchtowers. But the landscape did not always cooperate. Hills undulated. Valleys opened unexpectedly. Rain softened mortar. Beyond the wall lay what the Romans called Caledonia, a region filled with tribes they never fully conquered. Occasionally, Rome would push north. Hadrian's successor, Antoninus Pius, even built a second wall, the Antonine Wall, further north in what is now Scotland. Over the years, the wall became more than a barrier. But through it all, the wall remained a place of tension. It stood for nearly 300 years, longer than most modern nations have existed. And when Rome finally withdrew from Britain in the early 5th century, the wall was not destroyed in a blaze of glory. It simply faded. Stone was taken to build homes. Towers crumbled. Roads turned to trails. And the great line drawn by Hadrian slowly sank into the quiet hills. Even today, if you visit the region, you can walk for miles beside sections of the wall. What was once an empire's edge is now a footpath. What was once a symbol of control is now a whisper of memory. From stone walls and military campaigns, we now turn our attention to something far more delicate and far more personal. Not grand history, but fragments of lives. Lives lived in the cold shadow of empire. Vindolanda, a Roman fort and settlement nestled just south of Hadrian's Wall. One of many that marked the frontier, but one that left behind a remarkable and unexpected treasure: wooden tablets. Hundreds of them. Not scrolls of epic verse or proclamations from emperors, but letters, inventories, birthday invitations, duty rosters, shopping lists, slips of inked wood preserved in the damp anaerobic soil of northern England. And in these tablets, a rare and quiet gift: voices. Imagine the earth opened gently by archaeologists. Layers of mud peeled away with care. And beneath it, a sliver of ancient wood, barely thicker than a postcard. On it, faint traces of ink, Roman cursive script, hurried, irregular, human. You are no longer reading about emperors or generals. You are reading about a man requesting more socks, a woman inviting her sister to her birthday party, a soldier writing home to complain about the beer. One such letter reads, "I have sent you pairs of socks, 2 pairs of sandals, and 2 pairs of underpants." A Roman soldier, likely writing to his family. Another, more famous, comes from Claudia Severa, the wife of a Roman commander, inviting her friend to a birthday celebration. "I give you a warm invitation to come to us. On the 11th of September, sister, for the day of the celebration of my birthday, the handwriting is uneven, the tone informal. But there is affection, too. Sister, she calls her, not a literal sister, but perhaps a friend close enough to be counted as one. Guard duty, latrine cleaning, grain inspection, names carefully lined up beside responsibilities. The handwriting sometimes shifts mid-tablet, a sign that different individuals filled out different sections. Through these tablets, the distant becomes intimate. There were soldiers and slaves, merchants and craftsmen, wives and children. Latin was spoken, but so were other languages. Coins from distant provinces passed through rough hands. Meals were eaten. Stories were told. Arguments flared. Friendships grew. Some are military. Some are personal. Some are both. We are no longer imagining history in broad strokes. We are watching someone scratch out a note by the dim light of a winter lantern. They reveal everyday life in its monotony, its humor, and its soft struggles. With cold fingers, the letters mention local markets, troubles with supplies, complaints about weather, and notes about broken equipment. Many tablets contain duty rosters, lists of who was assigned to which task. Others are records of supplies, amounts of beer, oil, hay, or firewood distributed or requested. These tablets reveal a garrison that was not simply a fighting force, but a living community. And what's perhaps most striking is the ordinariness of it all. But people. The tablets do not reveal great secrets or dramatic betrayals. They remind us that these men and women stationed on the edge of the empire were not symbols. People who worried. People who hoped. People who sent letters that might never arrive. Today, these wooden slips are preserved at the British Museum and the Vindolanda site itself, studied, scanned, and displayed under low lighting. And as we read them, thousands of years later, we do so not to learn facts, but to feel presence. The quiet presence of a soldier writing home, of a woman planning a gathering, never meant to echo, of a clerk counting firewood by candlelight. These voices somehow did. So far, we have walked the ramparts of a Roman frontier fort. We have watched a wall rise from stone and strategy. We have read the quiet ink of forgotten hands. Now let us cross into another world entirely, a world of warmth, refinement, and cultivated calm, nestled not far from the cold reality of the frontier. Let us step inside a Roman villa in Mitannia. Imagine an estate tucked into a green countryside, not far from a garrison town, yet far enough that the sound of drills and commands fades into birdsong. The road here is paved, if cracked. The gates are wooden, reinforced with iron, and beyond them is a different rhythm of life. You pass through a formal garden, its paths edged with trimmed hedges and local flowers, not exotic, but ordered. A small fountain trickles gently in the courtyard. The scent of damp earth mingles with herbs, thyme, mint, and perhaps lavender. Its walls are thick, its roof tiled in curved terracotta, its layout following a familiar pattern. An atrium for receiving, a dining room for reclining, and a private set of chambers beyond. Beneath the stonework lies a system of channels, part of a hypocaust heating system. Some are geometric. Some depict scenes from mythology. Their colors have faded slightly with age, but the artistry remains. Careful strokes of ochre and crimson, vines curling along the edge of a doorway. Fires are stoked in special furnaces, and the warm air passes beneath the floor, rising gently through flues in the walls. A midday meal of bread, olives, and roast meat, eaten reclined on a cushioned couch. In the afternoon, a bath, not in a public therme, but a small private complex. Hot water, cold plunge, warm towels. The rituals of hygiene and leisure entwined. He speaks Latin, but with a local accent. He wears a tunic dyed in muted tones. Scrolls are read aloud by younger members of the household. Poetry, law, letters from relatives in other provinces. The room grows still, a place of memory and aspiration, where a mosaic on the floor might depict Venus, even though the nearest coast lies hundreds of miles away. His household includes servants, perhaps a steward, and members of his extended family. The air inside the villa feels soft and dry, a quiet luxury in a damp land. The villa is not as grand as those in Italy, but it carries the echo of Roman comfort. Inside, the floors are warm, not by magic, of course, but by innovation. The walls are painted, not whitewashed, but adorned with frescoes. A Roman landowner here might be a veteran, granted this land after years of service, or a provincial aristocrat, raised in Romanized tradition. His days are slow and structured, a morning of correspondence, a walk through the fields to inspect tenants. A dog barks once. Somewhere in the distance, a watchtower lantern flickers along the horizon. Evenings are quieter. Oil lamps are lit. Wine is poured, often imported, sometimes sour. Outside, the wind presses against the shutters. Life here is not idle, but it is protected. It is Roman life, transplanted into foreign soil. And yet, even in its comfort, there is something fragile. This villa, like the empire itself, is a structure of order imposed upon chaos, a house of warmth in a world of cold. The elite here enjoy a softer life, but they are never far from the harder one. Servants carry water. Farmers endure rain. The distant fort still watches the wall. And in time, even this villa will fade. Its roof will collapse. Its frescoes will flake. Its warm floors will cool forever. But for now, in this moment, the lamp still burns. The villa remains a haven. And within its walls, life flows with quiet elegance, far from the roaring center of empire, but still undeniably Roman. And now, as the lamps flicker low and the walls of the villa recede into stillness, we return from the edge of the Roman world. We have walked in worn sandals through the frost-bitten mornings of a frontier fort. We have watched a mighty wall stretch across the hills, part boundary, part symbol. We have read the careful handwriting of men and women long turned to dust. And we have stood in the warm quiet of a country villa where comfort softened the cold. These were not the centerpieces of Roman history, not the Senate, not the Colosseum, but they were the pulse of its margins, the rhythm of its reach. Life in a frontier Roman fort was never glorious. It was long, repetitive, hard, but also ordinary and very human. There was boredom and duty, laughter and longing, discipline and memory, layered like earth and stone. As you lie now in the comfort of your bed, safe from the wind, removed from the burden of watch, you carry a fragment of their story, not to trouble your dreams, but to line them with quiet echoes. Let the cadence of their days, the march, the letters, the soft rush of water through the villa baths, lull you into rest. Let their world become misty and distant, like the gray hills beyond the wall. You are not standing guard tonight. You are not waking early. There is no trumpet, no roll call, no patrol. Only sleep and the slow, fading rhythm of history. Good night.